Take the opportunity now, I'm going to go over the eating utensils for the United States Army during World War II, as well as the canteens. So, let's start up first row right here. If you've watched any of the other items that I've done, you've heard me mention that the United States Army in December 1941 still had quite a bit of equipment that was developed from World War I. One of those items was this, the mess tin. This particular one is from World War I. The way you used it was you had a piece that just slid off to the side, had a lid that you popped out. So basically, it tended to be used like that. Your main meal that you would have had would have gone here. This was actually designed to be used, think of it as a plate. Became apparent in trench warfare that it wasn't very practical. So the United States Army looked at it, and one of the comments that many World War II veterans made, they said it would have been nice if this piece on the top had two pieces to it where you could put your different food. So based on that recommendation, around 1941, I believe, 42. That was 1936. The United States Army came up with this design. It was made of steel, but it had a coating on it to protect it. You can tell that one's a little rusty. Same concept. The base of it would have had your main meal, and if you wanted to, you could fold it like that, and then whatever item you're going to eat would go there. One nice feature of this also is that you can use it for a frying pan. But it came out apparent real quick that, as you can see in this example, that the rust proofing didn't really work well. So they decided to go with aluminum as well as stainless steel. So by 1942, they came out with the best tins you see here. This particular item right here is actually from 1942. It's one of the first batches. So we're going to go ahead and pull this one out right here. It's manufactured in 1942. All the ones I happen to have here are all made of stainless steel, but also there are ones made of aluminum. Same concept. You lifted that piece. You had two sections to it. And you placed your meal in it. That one's from 1943, that one's from 1944, that's from 1945. Once again, the only difference between all of these items is the year they were manufactured. With your mess tin, you were issued a fork, you had a knife, these are all stainless steel. Fork, it's been a long evening. Fork, spoon, and you had a knife. Now initially the knives, they didn't have a sharp edge to them. Initially they had a plastic blade to it, but it became apparent rather quickly that these had a tendency to break, particularly when you put them in a pack. So later what they did was they came up with a metal blade to your mess tin knife. Now, you were issued this and you carried it in your pack. And previously I've gone over the haversack. So this pouch right here in your haversack was designed to contain your mess tin. There was also a section in the haversack that would have had your fork, knife, and spoon. So once again, you slid your fork, knife, and spoon in there. You put your mess tin back in, and you reassemble it. Now once again, a lot of times you didn't have this, so that bag I previously described as a musette bag, these items would have gone on there. Obviously, the fork, knife, and spoon would have been placed inside the mess tin. There was a downside to it that as you moved, it would make noise, it would bang. So think rattling around in there. So it's not uncommon where guys would put a sock in there or a face cloth or something like that to deaden the sound. Obviously keeping these clean was very important, so that if you had any food that wasn't properly cleaned, obviously you could get sick. These were designed so that if you're in a situation, usually it was not near the front lines, where they could have hot food for you. When you finished eating it, what you did, so you put everything like that, and at the end of your fork, your spoon, and your knife, there was a hole. And what you did is after you finished eating, was they would have a 55-gallon steel can that was full of water and had a brush. So you would dip your items in there, get all your food material off it. Then it had another 55-gallon galvanized can. Had something that's called an immersion heater. Basically, it was a stove that used gasoline that would bring the water up to a temperature of about 120 degrees to sterilize these items and clean them. So then that was your second wash. You put it in there. When it was clean, it was intended to be air dried. And then you put everything back together. I made mention with the bedroll, the officer's bedroll. It goes without saying, I have quite a few of these. And I do use them for camping. Now the ones that I use, the United States military used this design mess tin as well as the fork knife and spoon up until the 1980s. So obviously the ones that I use are not from World War II. Next item I'd like to go over is your canteen. Basic canteen, once again, the United States military Army started off with, was from World War I. What was distinctive about it was that canteen was made of aluminum that was welded together, had a metal cap to it. What you would find inside the canteen, and I'm going to use this one for demonstration purposes, was you remove your canteen, what you had inside of it was a cup. Initially they were made of aluminum, later they went to stainless steel. They used a cup, there was no flap, you positioned it. Of course now it won't hold because I'm showing, but you get the idea. It'll hold right there. The canteen cover was made of cotton, and it had a wool felt lining. The idea with the lining was that it would wick away the moisture and keep your canteen cool. This particular canteen cup was manufactured in 1918. Once again, you can see the same device. You slide and hold it. It's made of aluminum. I like stuff, once again, that you can tell that people own. And what I like about this particular canteen cup is that it appears it's owned by two people. One is named Jack, and the other one's named Peter. But what I do know is that Jack, besides putting his name on here, put his U.S. Army serial number, and he engraved in here New Guinea. So I have to assume that Jack was obviously the United States Army and had the opportunity probably in 1942 and 1943 to be in New Guinea. He was bored. He put his name, his serial number, where he was into the canteen cup. So this is an example of a canteen cover. It was made in 1918. Later in the war, what they did is they went from the metal top of the canteen, they went to one that was plastic on the top. The canteen cup was the same. This particular item right here was developed for the United States Cavalry, because in December 1941 we were still using horses. One of the distinctive features of this cover is that it has some loops. You can see them there on the side, and one on the bottom. And it would have had a leather strap that would have went over it, so it could be attached to a saddle. Once again, the World War I ones had the metal top. Here's an example, same type of canteen. This one happened to be, cover was made in 1943. And that one's 1943 as well. By 1944, they had a slight difference in terms of the color. They went away from this khaki. They went more to a dark green on the canteen cover. All the canteens were designed to be used with your cartridge belt. That they had a little piece of metal that you could put it on your belt where you felt it most comfortable. I have this one particularly set up. I like my canteen on my right hip, so I have this belt set up with the canteen on the right hip. Once again, if I need a sip of drink, pop it, pull it out, there's my canteen, and I'm ready to go. This one happens to have the cup in it also. So there's a quick overview of the United States Army mess tins, as well as canteens, and how they were cleaned and how they were used. So thank you very much.